It's another day, left jab, right jab, this is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim, looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting, if you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go, I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show, this the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC 255. We got two flyweight titles on the line. Of course, one in the men's division and one in the women's division. In the main event, we got Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Alex Perez. And in the co-main event, we got Valentina Shevchenko taking on Jennifer Maia. Both the champions here are coming in as pretty decent favorites, especially in Shevchenko's case. She's actually as big as a favorite as probably you'll ever see. I mean, that line is just toting the 1400s, the 1500s. And, you know, you see her come in as a favorite like that time and again, and she delivers. So, you know, we'll be breaking that fight down. We'll be getting into the line and all that here soon. Other than just the top two fights, I think that this card is very solid in my opinion. There's some very intriguing and some very solid matchups and some interesting characters fighting on this card. So I'm excited for this card. UFC 255 is it's a solid card for me. And you guys know the drill. We'll be getting to that card here in a minute. We do have to take a look back at this past weekend's card. We had Paul Felder hopping in on short notice, taking on Rafael dos Anjos. It was a nice main event, and we'll start at the bottom. We'll work our way all the way to the top. In the first bout, we had Dontel Mays, who handled business against Roque Martinez. And just, you know, he showed, man, he was just, you know, the bigger dude in there. And that's really what a lot of people were seeing. You saw these guys, you know, matched up. It was more of almost just a physical matchup. Roque Martinez is just, he's short. He's actually decently skilled, but, you know, he carries a lot of extra weight. And that guy, like I said, he needs to clean up his act if he actually wants to be taken seriously. In the next bout, we had Alex Morono, who put on a clinic against Rhys McKee. Alex Morono showing once again that he is a very skilled fighter. I mean, he's been around the game for a long time, trains with some legit fighters, and he showed, you know, taking on a guy in Rhys McKee, that McKee really just wasn't on his level. At least that's what I gathered from it. I thought Morono really put on a clinic out there. Pulled off the unanimous decision. Then we had in the next bout, we had Tony Gravely taking on Geraldo de Freitas. I thought that this was a very entertaining fight. Tony Gravely showed that he has some very solid wrestling. You know, you hear everyone talking about some of the wrestling training that he's been taking place or taking part of, you know, leading up to this fight. He was training with, I forget what college it was, a major college. He was training with their university. This is a guy that's been wrestling since he was a young kid. He's also has some Taekwondo skills. His dad was a Taekwondo teacher. So this guy really is, you know, a solid mixed martial artist. You know, he did have that setback in his last fight against a guy that we really see now as being a real solid fighter, and Brett Johns, who's actually, if you guys didn't realize, he actually signed with Bellator, I do believe. The UFC, I guess, wasn't crazy about his style, not the most entertaining style, but let alone a very skilled fighter. So Tony Gravely did bounce back after that loss and defeated the guy in Geraldo de Freitas, who I actually believe is a very dangerous fighter. You saw his striking. He definitely has some jiu-jitsu skills, and don't get it twisted. A lot of fighters would have been subbed by de Freitas on the mat. Tony Gravely really showed some good BJJ defense, so keep an eye on Gravely. In the next fight, Kanako Murata, she put on a clinic. Maybe I wouldn't say put on a clinic, but she showed up, man. She showed up and she handled business against Miranda Marcos. And a lot of you guys, I remember I saw some comments. You guys said that you were going to unfollow me if Marcos won that fight because, you know, in my last prediction video, I was letting you guys know that Murata is the real deal. Now you guys see what I was talking about. She has legit wrestling skills. She can hold her own in the feet as well. I like the head movement. I like the power in her hands. She's a legit fighter, so keep an eye on her. In the next fight, we had Corey McKenna, who took out Kay Hansen. This was a fight that I'm happy that Corey McKenna won the fight. I kind of like her and her story and whatnot. She's a career mixed martial artist. It's a young girl that it's a part of the family business over there. Her mom fights, and they've been traveling the world, on vacations. They're talking about her going on family vacations, training at all these different gyms of her family, traveling the world. I like her story. I think she has a lot of potential. She's so young. But I did feel that Kay Hansen did edge that fight out. I thought it was a close fight, though. Corey Mckenna was landing some nice 1-2s. But just when the fight was over, I was like, damn, Kay Hansen showed up, in the third round. She got some control on the mat, and she was able to take that third round, I thought, and then win the fight. So I know a lot of people were upset about that because I know a lot of you guys had some money on Kay Hansen. There was no action there for me. By the way, I need to touch upon my plays. My plays coming up here. So I had 2 plays going into this card. And then the first play got scratched, which was the Antonio Arroyo versus, this was the fight that was initially scrapped. So then Eric Anders stepped in. So I had Antonio Arroyo against Eric Anders. The fight got scrapped right before the fight. After that fight got scrapped, I did want to throw another play together. I didn't want to just have one play in this card. So my backup play was Luis Smoka versus Jose Quinones. That fight got scrapped as well. I thought I saw some value in both those fights as them coming in as the dogs. So then I was left with just one fight, and I was very disappointed the way it played out. I did have a small play on Brendan Allen, and Brendan Allen did not show up. A lot of people were upset about the game plan. He was in there trying to strike with Strickland. I was just very shocked. I thought Brendan Allen would try to use the grappling more so. That's really his specialty. I know he could hold his own on the feet, but the way that he made Sean Strickland just look so good in there, landing at will. I mean, Brendan Allen looked worse in there, than name slipping my mind. Then the guy that just stepped in there with Sean Strickland, Jack Marshman. I mean, I thought Brendan Allen was on a whole different level, even on the feet, than a guy like Jack Marshman. So I was very surprised. It is what it is. We'll go back to the drawing board, and I'll take that L on the chin. And you guys know how it goes, man. I've been putting in work, card to card to card. I've been on fire as of recently. So just another little minor setback, just a one loss on the entire card, and this is nothing. We'll bounce back with a nice solid card on this event that's coming up this Saturday. So it is what it is. But big shout out to Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland's the real deal. And going into that fight, I knew Sean Strickland's the real deal. I had really, really high hopes for Brendan Allen. That's going to take a step back right now from what I saw. But I'm sure Brendan Allen will bounce back. He's a young dude, and we'll see how both these guys' career progress. But Sean Strickland's the guy to keep an eye on right now with the momentum that he's carrying. In the next fight, we had Ashley Yoder, who took out Miranda Granger. Just a really frustrating fight to watch. Granger can't stuff a takedown for nothing. Very unskilled grappling or takedown defense. I mean, the takedown defense isn't there. Ashley Yoder's getting head and arm takedowns. Little trip takedowns, and it was really frustrating to see even Ashley Yoder on top, in top position, trying to rain some ground and pound. It was just so weak to watch. And, I'm happy that Ashley Yoder got a victory. Good for her. But it just wasn't the most entertaining fight. And then, speaking of entertaining fights, we get one in the next one. Chaos Williams takes out Razak Al Hassan. The fight didn't last long at all, 30 seconds. And Chaos Williams, damn, I guess there was some value there, huh? I expected Razak Al Hassan to be the more technical striker. If you look at Chaos Williams' knockouts that he has, I mean, they're very unorthodox and they're not that technical. He's throwing punches from his hip. He has these weird type of style. That knockout was clean though. That was a nice right down the pipe, right through the guard. Clipped. Or I shouldn't even say clipped. I mean, he just smoked Al Hassan right in the face. But I thought that Razak Al Hassan would have been way more technical in there. If anything, I was more worried about the later rounds of Al Hassan kind of gassing out or something like that. So. Very surprised how that fight played out. And I would have never touched Razak Al Hassan. If anything, I was potentially going to maybe target Chaos Williams as a value play because I thought these guys would be throwing down. And with Al Hassan's cardio issues, the line was definitely off. So I hope none of you guys were touching that play. Then we go to the main event. Rafael Dos Anjos takes out Paul Felder. And what I would say was an excellent performance from RDA. I cannot believe it says split over this fight. RDA, in my opinion, won every single round. Shout out to Paul Felder for stepping up, taking that fight on short notice. I'm a big fan of Paul Felder's, and you see how dangerous he is, even in that fight, even getting beaten down. You see how dangerous he is with his striking. You saw, the skills that he brings to the table. You see the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu submission defense. I mean, this guy is very, very intelligent there on the mat. He knows how to avoid those subs. I'm telling you, a lot of other guys would have got subbed. There was some head and arm triangle chokes there that were available for RDA. But Paul Felder he knew what he was doing there. We've seen We've seen RDA sub guys like Neil Magny on the mat with those subs, and RDA is a very skilled BJJ practitioner, and like I said, we've seen him go out there and sub some legit guys. Paul Felder, props to him for being extremely tough, getting his face cut open, hanging in there for 25 minutes. The dude wasn't even in a mixed martial arts gym for 4 months. He said he was training for a triathlon. Major props to Paul Felder. But the fact that that fight was a split decision was an absolute joke, and the judge that actually scored this fight for Paul Felder should never be allowed to score a fight again. I think that's a fact. I think that's the way it should be. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts. How do you score that for Paul Felder? And this guy is going to be robbing people of money and ruining people's careers. Get him out of there. Get him out the game. There needs to be somebody monitoring things like this and getting them out the game. So, two questionable judgings, or 2 fights with some questionable judgings. The Corey McKenna went 2, but I thought that fight was at least close. So no real shame in that. All right, so that wraps up RDA versus Paul Felder. And now you guys know what time it is. We work our way over to this weekend's card. So here we go, UFC 255. As I already stated, I'm excited for this card. I think that there's some interesting lines. I think there's some interesting matchups. Just some awesome fights top to bottom. So I'm excited for this fight card. As you guys see, from the top, we'll work our way down to the bottom. Of course, we got the 2 title fights taking place in the co-main and the main event spots. We got Mike Perry taking on Tim Means. We got a rematch of Maurício Shogun Rua taking on Paul Craig. That's going to be fireworks. Interesting flyweight matchup here. We got Joaquin Buckley making his return after one of the most amazing knockouts we've ever seen. So really some cool fights here. And a fight that I'm very interested right off the bat. We'll talk about this fight right here. Starting things off, we got Luis Cosce taking on Sasha Alatnikov. And if you guys were watching Dana White's Contender Series this past season, you guys already know about the Cosce brothers. The Cosce brothers are legit. Before I even get into this fight, I'm going to talk about them as a whole here together, man. Both these guys are awesome fighters. Both of these guys came into their Dana White's Contender Series fights as underdogs. Both of these guys delivered, put on amazing performances. I really like their story. I like their personalities. I think these guys are very legit. I actually thought they were twins. They're not twins, even though they look, in my opinion, they look almost identical. They're not twins. But in my opinion, these guys have potential to be the new age Diaz brothers. Because as you guys know, we got to take a step back in the Diaz brothers. We don't even know if we're ever going to see Nick Diaz ever step back into the octagon. Nate Diaz, maybe we'll see him in there a couple more times if we're lucky. And I think we need a brother duo that's a little rough around the edges, man, and that bring and deliver entertaining fights. I think the Cosce brothers are the guys. I'm telling you guys. So if you don't know about them, you've been put on notice, man. These guys are legit. And cool personalities, man. A little bit, they're similar to the Diaz brothers in a sense, but obviously very different at the same time. They grew up on like an Indian reservation, a little rough around the edges. I think they had some tough times growing up. I forget the exact details. They had some issues, I believe, with their parents being around, some alcohol problems, growing up on a reservation, all that type of stuff. They had some interesting stories that I kind of heard. And these guys are just tough, man, tough dudes. And I got a brother myself, and sometimes I picture me and my brother going to war with other brothers, like growing up fighting other dudes. These are 2 dudes. I don't know if I'd want to do a brother duo against. These guys are tough dudes. Just thinking of some of the best brother duos that have ever participated in the MMA game. Of course, we got the Pettis brothers, the Diaz brothers. Of course, I already brought them up. And you guys comment below, man. Ring off some of these brother duos that we've had. I think it's always a cool thing to see, man. 2 brothers that are both at the peak of the game. So with that being said, man, we get right to the actual fight, man. We break this down. Luis Cosce, he's 7-0. He's undefeated, taking on this guy Sasha Alatnikov, who's actually fighting out of Hong Kong. Although it looks like he has some type of Russian or Polish background. I don't know exactly, but I guess he's moved over to Hong Kong and he's fighting out of there. And I think that he's a little bit in trouble, this guy Sasha. I've been breaking down tape on him, and I was not overly impressed at all. I do like the shoulders that he's brushing with. You see him over here. He was putting in some work with Sean Strickland. That is a big thing. He's getting some good time on the mats and whatnot with some top level talent. But from breaking down his tape and watching some of the fight footage I was able to pull up, it seems like he's more of a grappling based fighter. from what I've seen. I mean, maybe he carries a little bit of power in his hands, but at the same time, I saw him really trying to drag the fights down to the mat. And I don't know if that's going to play out in a good way for him, fighting a guy like Cosce, because Cosce is a guy that has very good wrestling, very good takedown defense, and he has power in his hands. I think Cosce is going to be able to keep this fight on the feet. You saw this is Cosce in his Dana White's Contender Series fight. Looked absolutely amazing out there. And he finished Victor Reina, and that was in, let's see what round that was in again. Only 25 years old, this dude is too. Yeah, that was in the first round. Finished him early in the first round. And this guy, Victor Reina, is a solid fighter as well. So that's a legit win there. And a lot of people were high on Victor Reina. He was coming in as the favorite. 7-0, and been finishing everybody. Every single one of his fights have been finished. Crazy, man. All finished in the first round. So, and I will say this, even though all his fights are finished in the first round, sometimes you got to be careful. Fighters that never made it out the first round, you got to watch how they would perform when the fight goes to the second and the third round. I don't think it would be a problem with him here. We saw it from his brother. We saw it from his brother. His brother has showed that he had a crazy gas tank in his fight. And I'm willing to go on a limb and say that if his brother has the cardio that he has, he's going to have just about the same cardio. They have very similar physiques. They're training together. They look almost identical. I'm willing to say that his gas tank's going to be solid there. So I don't expect him to gas out in the second or third round, just especially from what I saw from his brother, because it was very impressive going into the later rounds. In fact, he actually got better as the fight went to the later rounds. So if anything, I think that might be an edge that both these guys have. Sasha Alatnikov, 5-2. He lost to Minor Lazez, as we know that he's a very legit fighter, so he did get finished by him, but no real shame in that. And then he bounced back with a nice victory there. Got a finish in the first round. 2 finishes on his resume, but like I said, from the fight footage I saw, he was trying to drag the fight down to the mat. Really didn't look like he really wanted to really strike too much on the feet. I believe it might have been against Sung Woo Son, the fight I was watching, but that's not going to fly with Luis Cosce, in my opinion. Now, as far as the line goes, Cosce's coming in as a very, very heavy favorite, right around -400 at this point. So, I mean, that's kind of high, really, for my liking. I do think that Sasha's a capable fighter, but I'd expect Luis to pull up to this fight and handle business. So, that's the way I'm going with that. And keep an eye on the Cosce brothers. I'm telling you guys right now, some legit dudes that they'll be hanging around for quite some time. I'm not saying that they're going to go in there and win every single fight and they're going to go win a title. I mean, they have potential to do that, but I think these guys are going to be more characters. These guys are going to win a lot of fights. They're going to show up. They're going to deliver. They're going to win, fight of the night awards and stuff like that. That's what I expect from these guys, just to be legit contenders in there. So keep an eye on that first fight. All right, in the next fight, we got Kyle Daukaus taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. This is a very intriguing matchup as well. 2 guys that are both very, very skilled on the mat with their Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Kyle Daukaus, you guys know I'm very high on him. I'm high on both the Daukaus brothers. I guess I should bring it up. Why not, right? I should bring up the fact that I did just hit a major underdog play in his brother Chris, because I know somebody in particular gets annoyed when I bring that up. But it is what it is, and that was a solid hit. And I'm high on both the Daukaus brothers. I think they're both very, very talented fighters. Kyle Daukaus, I had the pleasure of speaking with him here, as you see, MMA Live Discussion, number 19. Very cool dude. Like I said, he brings some real talent to the mat. He's also been working on his striking. I think that he's going to surprise some people with his striking. We've seen it from his brother. These guys, they say that's their one skill that not a lot of people know that they really have, and I think they're going to start to show that. Has a 76-inch reach. That's a long reach for the division. Stoltzfus has a nice frame on him as well. Daukaus coming in 6'3". Stoltzfus is in my opinion, he's more of a BJJ-based fighter. I wasn't really that impressed from what I've seen from him on the feet. So as far as striking goes, I definitely edge Kyle Daukaus to win the striking exchanges. In fact, we saw Dustin Stoltzfus getting pretty much, I don't want to say teed off on. He was getting lit up a little bit by Joseph Pfeiffer before, he did win that fight. Of course, you guys know what happened, man. Pfeiffer tried to stuff a takedown. He tried to frame with his arm, and his arm completely popped out the socket. So Stoltzfus did win that fight. I do want to give credit to Stoltzfus for winning that fight in the fashion that he did, because it wasn't just a fluke. Stoltzfus is a very strong grappler. You can see he has some legit grappling abilities, wrestling and whatnot. He's very strong, and he forced that to happen, man. That was a good entry and a good entry to a takedown, and he caused that injury. So, and people are very high on his BJJ skills, and I'm a believer in his BJJ skills. The thing is, I think Kyle Daukaus is very talented there as well. So they may nullify, and I definitely edge Daukaus with the striking. So I got to go with Daukaus to win this fight. But saying all that, I will say this much, minus 265, minus 290, that may be a little bit of a high line in my opinion. I think that Dustin Stoltzfus is a very capable fighter. I think he's a guy that really, he may surprise us. He may come in there and pull off another victory. I mean, this guy might be the real deal. He's 29 years old. He's very seasoned. He's 13-1. I mean, he goes in there, he wins this fight. He's 14-1. He's a legit fighter, and he's riding a big win streak right now. So people have high hopes for him too. So I don't want to mislead you guys and just make you guys think that Kyle Daukaus is going to go in there and it's going to be a walk in the park. I'm edging Kyle Daukaus to win this fight, but I think that Dustin Stoltzfus is a legit fighter. So keep an eye on that fight. And obviously, I'm rooting for my boy Kyle out there. Hope Kyle delivers a nice submission against Dustin. That would be a big feather in his cap if he can pull off the sub against Dustin. In the next fight, we got the model Alan Jouban taking on Jared Gooden. Alan Jouban, you guys know the deal with him. A skilled Muay Thai fighter, a guy that's been around the block for a long time. Obviously, he's done some work with the UFC, doing some commentary. He's a model outside the UFC. Don't get it twisted. He is a talented fighter. I will say that. It's not just that he has he's a good-looking guy and he's marketable. I think he's a very talented fighter. He has good technical striking. Brushes shoulders with some solid fighters, and he's a very crafty, seasoned fighter, man. He shows up. You know what you're getting from Jouban. Whereas this guy Jared Gooden, was supposed to make his UFC debut not too long ago. That fight got canceled. He did get injured leading up to that fight. He's 17-4. He was supposed to be taking on Dwight Grant, and I believe that was the fight that D-Rod. They matched up D-Rod with Dwight Grant. We'll talk about that fight here in a little bit, but he got injured leading up to that fight. I will say this, kind of an impressive resume as you see it. He's 26 years old. He's 17-4. But quite honestly, I haven't been that impressed from what I've seen from him on tape. I know you see finishes and this and that, and a lot of finishes throughout his resume, and it's a solid record. But I'm not overly impressed from what I've seen from him. I think he's a very well-rounded fighter. He can sub you. He can knock you out. He's just a decent fighter here. Taking on a guy in Alan Jouban, I think Alan Jouban will be able to keep this fight on the feet, and I think this fight might play out to be a close striking matchup, and where I could see Jouban, edging the striking with his Muay Thai. I think Jouban's a very capable striker, and I'm kind of leaning that way. I think that's the way I see this fight taking place. See losses against Mike Graves, talented American top team fighter. Bruno Oliveira, he lost to him, and then other than that, check out Mika Miller, also an old fighter from back in the day. Not a lot of notable names, quite honestly. So, just coming off a victory in Titan FC. Titan FC is one of the major promotional organizations outside the UFC and all that. So, but again, I'm going to edge Alan Jouban to win this fight. Now, as far as the line goes, Alan Jouban is the slight favorite. I think that line's pretty accurate. Wouldn't be surprised if Gooden shows up and delivers, but I edge Jouban to win the striking exchanges and pull off maybe a decision there. All right, this one should be an entertaining fight here. Nicolas Dalby taking on Daniel Rodriguez. D-Rod. Of course, Daniel Rodriguez is coming off a victory in what was one of the most entertaining fights we've seen in a long time. One of the biggest comebacks we've seen in a long time. That was against Dwight Grant. And I kind of referred to this fight here earlier. So if you guys didn't get a chance to see that fight, I highly recommend you watch that fight. Dwight Grant hurt him early, had him wobbled. D-Rod showed that he has a very strong chin. He's very durable. He's the type of guy, kind of looked like Glover Teixeira in a sense. I mean, getting hurt in the feet, coming right back, and then hurting his opponent. That's a solid quality, for a fighter to have, man. A guy that's just very durable, that gets hurt and has that killer instinct where he gets hurt and he wants to hurt you back. Some guys, we see them get hurt and they just cower, man. They curl up. this isn't the type of guy, man. D-Rod is not that type of guy. He's extremely tough. Good, very good power in his hands. Good boxing. Good takedown defense. He's not a wizard on the mat in no sense, but he's pretty capable down there as well. So, I mean, he's a well-rounded, solid fighter. Big shout out to D-Rod here. Now he's taking on the guy, Nicolas Dalby, who just dropped the ball in a major way. I know he cost some of you guys money because I know how you guys are. And I know that was the type of fight you guys mixed in a parlay or something. He lost to Jesse Ronson. And let me know, man, if you guys took that play. Be honest with me. Comment below. Because I remember seeing a lot of comments. People were heartbroken because Nicolas Dalby was looking good, and then he got hurt, and he got finished by Jesse Ronson. Jesse Ronson, props to him. A guy that's been around the block for a long time, a guy that people were looking right over in that fight. And Jesse Ronson just showed that, he's rejuvenated his career. And shout out to Jesse Ronson. But, Dalby was looking very good in that fight at times. He has some real skills that he does bring to the table. He's extremely athletic. He's explosive. He's capable on the mat. His striking is dangerous. But I think that he's the type of guy, though, that tends to drop the ball in major spots, though. We've seen that from him, right? There was another fight I think that rings a bell to me. Yeah, I mean, well, he lost those 3 fights. These were all fights that he should have been handling business. He had so much hype coming in at this time, but then he did bounce back with some victories in a row. Oh, the Alex Oliveira fight, too. That was a very questionable decision. A lot of people thought Cowboy won that fight, so that was a fight that he was flaking out in a little bit. He was looking good, and then he gets, spotty inside his fight, so be careful with him. If you have money on him, he's going to have you on the edge of your seat, in my opinion. Daniel Rodriguez is the type of guy that will definitely will put him in that situation as well. So you see him, and this guy's a winner. He showed up, took out Tim Means in his UFC debut. That was a very impressive victory for him, and this guy's a winner. As far as the line goes, like I said, this card has some interesting lines, in my opinion. So, again, you might see me picking a certain fighter to win the fight. Overall, I think it's most likely to happen, but I'll let you know when I think these lines are kind of off. And I think this may be one of them here. The line is, where was the line again? Here we go. Yeah. But the opposite way. So Daniel Rodriguez is coming in as a -325. I was pretty surprised to see that, to be honest with you guys. I thought that the line would be a lot closer. Dalby, as I said, a very athletic, explosive fighter. I thought this line would be much closer. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking D-Rod's going to hurt him on the feet. He's coming off the beating that he just took. D-Rod does tend to bring the fight, and maybe he clips Dalby in there. I'm kind of right now on the edge of picking Dalby to win this fight, though. So I'll let you guys know that right now. Dalby's going to come in with a 1/2-inch reach, even though he's 2 inches shorter. Dalby is an explosive KO artist himself, and yeah, this is a tough one. I think I'm gonna take Dalby. I think right now at this point in time, I'm taking Dalby to win this fight. It's a very close fight. I do think the line's off, and I'm gonna edge Dalby to win the fight. That's what I'm gonna go with right now. If anything changes, you guys know the deal. Maybe I bounce back to D-Rod. I mean, I do think D-Rod, has a real opportunity to go in there and just hurt Dalby, continue the beating that Dalby just had in his last fight, just continue it right up into this fight with D-Rod. So we'll see how that fight plays out. It's going to be an entertaining matchup. All right, boys. We got, speaking of siblings in the UFC, Antonina Shevchenko, she's also fighting on this card with Valentina Shevchenko being her sister, of course, taking on Ariane Lipski. Who do you guys want to start with? I guess we'll start with Shevchenko here, who looked absolutely horrendous in her last fight against Chookagian. I was extremely shocked. I thought Shevchenko had a lot of potential to come in the UFC and really put on a clinic on the feet against a lot of the girls in the division. A lot of these girls that are not capable on the feet. Shevchenko, a multiple Muay Thai champion. I thought she was going to come in and really hurt a lot of female fighters. That really has not been the case. Really, I mean, we saw her lose to the Happy Warrior, Roxanne Modafferi. She bounced back with the victory over Lucy Pudilova. That was actually, I think, a decently close fight before she got that submission as well. And you saw even in that fight that she's just not that good on the mat. Even though she pulled the sub, not that good on the mat. Of course, the Roxanne Modafferi, she looked horrible. She couldn't keep the fight on the feet. And then Chookagian completely just sat on her chest. It looked like one of those fights you used to see in high school. Two girls, scrapping it up. The girl just, mounts, sits on her stomach and just starts wailing away. You know, that's really what it looked like. And it was not a good look for Antonina. And now you got her taking on a girl in Ariane Lipski, who's coming off a beautiful submission against Luana Carolina, pulled off that nasty knee bar. You know, that was a beautiful knee bar. Look at her knee extending back. So she has some submission skills. Ariane Lipski, though, is more of a striking-based fighter, right? I think she's actually a Muay Thai fighter as well. So I think the UFC is trying to match up Antonina Shevchenko here, you know, in a spot that she can actually, you know, showcase some of her skills. But I just don't really have a lot of faith in her, to be quite honest with you. I don't have a lot of faith in her with her takedown abilities. I think that I could see Lipski getting this fight to the mat. I could see Lipski taking it back. And winning this fight on the mat. I could see that, pulling off a submission. Antonina Shevchenko just, I think I'm willing to turn the page on her, in my opinion. But I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden she starts to stuff takedowns, and then all of a sudden she starts to put a clinic on some of these girls in the feet. The fight game's crazy, and she does have the last name Shevchenko. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of her sisters, but she ain't her sister. And I'm going to take the dog here. I'm taking Ariane Lipski, who right now, yeah, Lipski's right around a plus 140. So, yeah, it's another dog selection right here for me. I'm going to pick the dog there. Ariane Lipski. And that'd be a treat to watch. You watch that fight. Ariane Lipski. All right. Ooh, we got a solid fight here. Joaquin Buckley taking on Jordan Wright. Beverly Hills Ninja, who's coming off a very impressive knockout as well, but not nearly. Actually, it was a doctor stoppage, but I know he hurt Ike Villanueva bad, man. I know he was hurting him on the feet, so he looked good in there. And then Joaquin Buckley, in my opinion, a top 5 knockout of all time. I'll put it right up there. I think it's a top 5 knockout of all time. Arguably, you could say it's number 1. I mean, what a beautiful knockout that was. Buckley is definitely a dangerous fighter. Even though he's coming off a loss against Kevin Holland, he was throwing heat in that fight, and Kevin Holland's a very talented fighter. Buckley is legit, in my opinion, a legit striker. I think there'll be certain guys that will be able to exploit his skill set overall as a fighter. I don't expect him to be the most well-rounded fighter that will be moving through the ranks that much, but I think in certain matchups, I think he's going to really showcase his striking and knock dudes out. 26 years old, still has a lot of time, you know, to progress in the game. Taking on Jordan Wright, as I said, coming off a big win. Jordan Wright, undefeated. He's putting a lot of time with Jackson Wink, as we know. You know, he had a big fight on Dana White's Contender Series against Anthony Hernandez. And then he had a fight in LFA, and then he had the Ike Villanueva fight. Jordan Wright, he's more of a traditional like karate style martial artist. You see it in his striking, you know, hands low, very light on the feet. I don't know how I feel about that stance. I mean, it works for some guys for sure. With Wonder Boy, Conor McGregor kind of, you know, mixed that into his game a little bit. Gunnar Nelson has. Jordan Wright, though, I don't know, something about him. You know, I just feel like something about him that actually, you know what it is? I'll run the tape back here real quick. What it was it the Anthony Hernandez fight. So it says no contest. This was actually, this was a fight where he got finished. Got finished in that fight, and it was a no contest for whatever reasons. Pull it up real quick for you guys. Yeah, it ended in no contest. I forget the exact reason why, but he got worked in that fight. Anthony Hernandez whooped him up in that fight. So again, keeping your hands low like that, you're going to be susceptible to being hurt. And against a guy like Buckley who throws straight heat, I think Buckley's going to tee off on Jordan Wright. Now, I do think that Jordan Wright has a tricky striking style, as I said, with the, you know, the karate type style. He has some nice kicks. He can actually throw some nasty kicks in there too, as we saw in his last fight. He threw against Ike Villanueva. I think he was throwing some spinning heel kicks and some wild stuff in there. So he is capable of doing that type of stuff. But I'm going to go with the more simplistic, more explosive type of striking from Joaquin Buckley. He doesn't need to do what he did against Impa Kasanganay. Doesn't need to do anything like that. He just needs to throw 1-2s, heavy hooks, and I think he could just knock out Jordan Wright with some simple boxing. And that's really the route I'm going with this fight. The line, it's pretty high, minus 270. He's a moderate favorite. I think that's a pretty big favorite. And yeah, you got to go with Buckley. But again, you know, Jordan Wright, undefeated fighter. Really, he should have a loss there. But an intriguing fighter. You know, a guy that comes in good shape and a guy that's brushing shoulders with some of the best of them. And he's coached by some of the best of them, and he has some legit skills at what he's been training in since he was a young buck. with the whole, you know, karate type striking, but I think it's a bad matchup for him against Buckley. Kind of reminds me of, you ever see those videos on YouTube where you got these type of martial arts guys that they want to, you know, prove their skill is legit, and they go in there against just a Muay Thai fighter or just a heavy boxer, a street type of fighter, man, and you see what happens, man. The guys that are just straight to the chase, man, the heavy boxing, the Muay Thai, they go in there and they just rip through and they destroy these guys for the most part. I kind of see something like that happening here. So I'm going with Joaquin Buckley. And again, that kick was disgusting against Impa. And Impa was a guy that has shown to have one of the best chins in the game. But it didn't matter how good your chin was there. You eat a shot like that, you're going out. And we'll see how his chin holds up after that fight. And here's the Beverly Hills Ninja. I'm excited for this fight. I think this is actually a fun fight here. So keep an eye on that fight too. Another entertaining fight. Like I've been saying, this is a card that I'm excited for. I'm a lot more excited for this card than the last card, I'll tell you that much. All right. We got another solid flyweight fight here on the card. We got Brandon Royval taking on Brandon Moreno. Brandon Royval coming off a spectacular finish against Kai Kara France as an underdog. Took out Tim Elliott with the submission as an underdog coming in his UFC debut. He's been putting work over on the LFA scene, taking out guys like Joby Sanchez, a legit fighter. Brandon Royval, I would expect people to start to catch on that this guy's very real. He brings the fight when he steps in there. He's coming in to scrap it out. He's throwing heavy hands at you. He's looking to submit you at any time in the fight. I like this guy. I like what he brings to the table. And quite honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that the line is where it is. Another interesting line, in my opinion. I thought people were going to start to jump on his hype train. He's right around a plus 165 right now. So was a little bit surprised to see that. But you know, I understand it to a sense that a lot of people are very high on Brandon Moreno as well. Brandon Moreno looked very good in his last fight against Jussier Formiga. Formiga, of course, you know, was a wizard on the mat at points in time in that fight. You know, even though Formiga was hurt bad and was getting worked, Formiga did use some skills on the mat to get in some nice positions, but couldn't really do anything with it. Moreno's explosive. He's tricky in there. He's unorthodox. Good jiu-jitsu, good striking. He's a very talented fighter. I think this is a perfect matchup for the flyweight division. The winner of this fight's really going to be pushing his way towards the top, which is what the division needs. You know, maybe the winner of this fight will be fighting for the title. I don't know. You know, obviously we got the title fight coming up here in a minute. And but you know, if Brandon Royval goes in there and takes out Moreno, I mean, forget it. He's going to cruise to the rankings. But Moreno is a solid fighter. Like I said, a little surprised at the line. You know, physically they're pretty much the same. Royval comes in with a 2-inch height advantage and a 1/2-inch reach advantage. Training at a factory ex Muay Thai, solid gym. You know, Moreno's putting some time with Ludwig and all that stuff. But I'm gonna go with the dog here again. I'm taking Brandon Royval. Taking the dog here. I like what I've seen from him. He shows up. He's dangerous, and I think he's going to keep his momentum rolling. Very close fight, though. Moreno's dangerous, and Moreno could easily go in there and handle business as well. So, another fight, man. Keep an eye on that fight. I'm going to be excited to watch that fight. And speaking of fights that are entertaining and fights you don't want to miss this fight. Shogun Rua taking on Paul Craig. We got the rematch. The first fight was very entertaining, as you guys know. Paul Craig hurt Shogun at points in time in that fight, almost finished the fight. And Shogun now is 38 years old. Craig is 32. So, I mean, Shogun doesn't have a chin, man, at this point in time. He really doesn't. I think if you land a nice heavy shot, you could finish him. He's taking so much damage. He does have so much heart, though. Even when he's hurt, he'll still try to hang in there. I took Paul Craig the first time this fight happened, and obviously it was a draw, so it just was a stalemate, but I thought I should have won. I thought Paul Craig should have won that fight. If I remember correctly, I thought Paul Craig won that fight, and I was a little surprised and a little upset that I didn't get my money there. And I'm taking Paul Craig again here. He's a minus 170. I think that's reasonable. He could even be a little higher, maybe even a minus 180, minus 190. Shogun just shows that he has so much heart, and you know, he's going to be hanging in there. You know, he can hang in there. But if Paul Craig goes in there and hurts him again early, this time maybe he finishes him. I could see that happening. In fact, that's probably most likely what I do see happening. Again, the first time we had the draw. I mean, look at Shogun's face. Look at Paul Craig's face. You see the look on Paul Craig's face, a little bit shocked there. And that fight, did that take place in Brazil? Take a look at that real quick. Yep, took place in Sao Paulo, Brazil. What a coincidence. So yeah, you know how the judging is over there. But again, I'm taking Paul Craig. This fight's in Vegas. Paul Craig should show up and win this fight. All right, here we go. We got Katlyn Chookagian taking on Cynthia Calvillo. Calvillo. You guys give me a hard time with the names. Some of these names, it's a little tricky there. Calvillo, however you say that. She's a solid fighter. Cynthia, I'm very high on Cynthia. Cynthia looked great in her last fight against Jessica Eye. I was on Cynthia all day in that fight. As you guys know, I'm not a big fan of Jessica Eyes, but a lot of people were actually on her, being that she had the size and whatnot. But Cynthia Calvillo is a way more talented fighter. Good boxing. She has very good wrestling credentials. She was a wrestler growing up, and trains over there with Team Alpha Male, and is a solid fighter. Katlyn Chookagian is a very solid fighter as well, in my opinion. Even though she had 2 losses, I mean, they were two of the best fighters, in the game right now. Jessica Andrade, and of course, Valentina Shevchenko. So other than that, she's winning there. She's been handling business. Took out Jennifer Maia, who has a title shot now. Calderwood and Antonina. But Katlyn Chookagian is a girl, she's been working on her striking for years. I believe she trains with Mark Henry, with her, with her boxing and whatnot over there in Jersey. I've been impressed from her striking. A lot of times that she does keep fights close. Fights that they tend to end up playing out closely on the feet with her style. But she's very talented. Her grappling is coming around, as we saw recently. I think she's a very talented fighter. Cynthia, on the other hand, is, in my opinion, just a little bit of a step above of Katlyn. I'm gonna edge Cynthia to win this fight. I really was impressed with what I saw from Cynthia in her last fight against Jessica Eye. She really showed that her boxing is really coming around, and she has some legit power. She has some power that you don't really see from a lot of other girls in the division, and just the way she moves in there. She's very. You don't see a lot of females move the way that she moves, man. She sits down on her punches, and I'm a fan of Cynthia's. I like her. I like what she brings to the table, and I think that she's a good matchup against a lot of girls in the division. I do think Chookagian's legit. Chookagian can come in there and she could upset anybody. She can come in there and maybe not Valentina Shevchenko, but there's a lot of girls she can go in there and she could step up to the plate and she could win a fight against. So I wouldn't be shocked if she goes in there and she wins this fight. If she's able to keep the fight on the feet, and if she's able to use her length in there. Of course, she does have a 2-inch reach advantage, and she's about 5 inches taller. So more so, when I'm talking about her length, I would actually want her to use some kicks in there. I'd want to see Chookagian try to use some leg kicks and keep this fight a little bit more on the outside. But Cynthia is good at closing the distance, and I would expect Cynthia to close the distance and go in there and land some solid shots there. As far as the grappling goes, I think Cynthia will be a little bit stronger in the clinch as they push up against the cage. But Katlyn's very, very tough there as well, too. So this is a closely contested matchup, in my opinion. But I'm edging Cynthia to win the fight. All right, this fight right here. This is my fight of the night, man. It really is. Mike Platinum Perry taking on Tim the Dirty Bird Means. I think this is a perfect fight, a perfect matchup here. You got a guy, Tim Means, who, in my opinion, is more of the real deal as far as being a tough guy. I think Mike Perry, a lot of you guys like to refer to him as a simp. You see how he is with the ladies. He's not a real man, and he's simped out on his little girl, posting pictures about her. I think he has a lot of screws loose. I think he's a little bit more of a clown, if you ask me. That's how I kind of look at Mike Perry. I think he's more of a clown, the way he carries himself, the way he talks. As you know, real gangsters and real tough dudes don't really act the way that he acts, in my opinion. He acts like a fool, in my opinion. I do think he's crazy, and I do think he's serious in some senses. But I think Tim Means was a guy. He's a real G in the game, bro. Tim Means is a guy. He had to clean up his act. This is a guy that went to prison for years. He came out of prison and got right back, to fighting, and proved to be one of the best fighters in the world. You don't hear, a lot of crap talk from him. He's just strictly business. You see him at the weigh-ins. You see him at the fights. Gets in his opponent's face. He'll walk right up on you, but doesn't chirp too much. Doesn't talk too much crap. I think that Tim Means, in my opinion, is a guy that when he was younger was probably doing a lot more crazy things than Mike Perry. Mike Perry, I don't know, tries to act like he's a tough guy and whatnot. I don't really know There's some conflicting stories about Mike Perry. I don't know if you guys ever heard those stories, but a lot of people say that he was from like a wealthy family, parents divorced. He was bouncing back and forth. Just one of those kids that, was a little messed up in the head from his upbringing, but, had money around him and stuff. Just, looked like he was raised by MTV or something like that. You know what I mean? One of those guys that was raised by VH1, BET, and MTV and didn't really have a father figure in his life. But I'm ranting right now, but I do like Mike Perry as far as watching him fight. He's an entertaining guy. He's quite entertaining to watch, but I'm on my boy Tim Means right here. Tim Means is a guy I've been rooting for, who I've been pulling for a long time. When Tim Means puts it together, he's so skilled on the feet, very slick boxing. He's gonna have a 4-inch reach advantage here. He's very rangy for the division. If Tim Means is a guy that can really go in there and he could style on almost anybody when he puts it together. Does have some mental lapses in there. We saw him take that loss against Nico Price and D-Rod. Those are 2 fights he should have won easily, in my opinion. You saw him putting a clinic on Nico Price before getting overzealous in there and getting clipped. Should have slowed it down, but he was teeing off on Nico Price. Just to touch upon the skills he brings with his hands. The D-Rod fight, made a mental error in there, stuck his head in under the arm where he should have never did that and got caught in a standing guillotine. I know he knows he messed up there and it's all good, but Tim Means, as long as he doesn't get knocked out by Mike Perry here, I expect Tim Means to work Perry on the feet. Perry is a guy that really throws, heavy hooks. You see him putting in work over here with Alex Nicholson. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Perry's of his technique with his striking. It does carry, over to it gives him a chance to showcase his power. It definitely has some nasty power. All his punches kind of have kind of a hook on them. Even his straight punches, he kind of has this like hooked on all his punches. He's constantly trying to go for the knockout in there, which he definitely can do. He carries a lot of power. But I like fighters that are able to keep their straight shots straight. You know what I mean? Tim Means is a guy that can do that. And with his reach advantage already, that's going to pay dividends. But again, it only takes one shot from Mike Perry. If he's able to get in there and clip Tim, I could definitely see him getting a knockout there. And Mike Perry is extremely durable, extremely tough, and he's going to be hanging around in this fight. So Perry's definitely live here. When I say live, from my point of view, obviously he is the favorite anyway. But Tim Means is I'm going with Tim Means here. And I'm excited for this fight, man. This is the fight of the night, in my opinion, right here. This is the fight. And Tim Means is going to show up. That's what's up. I want Tim Means to win this fight. Who you guys got? I want to know. Comment below. You guys rooting on Mike Perry or Tim Means? I'm sure there's a lot of Perry fans in here too, so don't get upset with my little rant on Perry, but that's just the way that I see Mike Perry. Guys that just growing up in South Florida, I dealt with a lot of dudes like this. I've fought with a lot of guys that look just like this, that act just like this. These used to be my type of enemies. Just acting a fool, boxers hanging out of their pants and whatnot. Seeing their underwear hang out. I used to like to whoop on people like that. So I don't know. I don't like the way he carries himself. He's a clown to me. I can imagine Mike Perry just being a fool. Obviously, as you see, videos pop up of him, on the strip in Orlando, knocking dudes out, acting a fool. You saw him punch the old man. I don't know if you've seen that video where he punched the old guy. I don't know. It's not really my type of dude, to be honest with you. But I'm excited for that fight. All right, got the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko taking on Jennifer Maia. Valentina Shevchenko coming in as a huge favorite, as you see it say there. Tapology is funny with the lines. What I think is a huge favorite is like a -400 or 500. I still think that's huge, and they'll say moderate, but I understand you got to have different stages to what you label it. But this is for sure a huge favorite. -1300. She's as high as high as -1400, -1667 on Bet DSI, -1600 on Bovada. I mean, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But you know what? It kind of makes sense because she's going to go out there and she's going to win the fight. That's how I see this fight. She is the best female fighter on planet Earth. That's how I feel about that. I know a lot of you guys give me crap. Some of you Amanda Nunes fans. I thought that she beat Amanda both times. For sure, one of them. I thought she was robbed. And I want to see that rematch. Valentina Shevchenko is just such a mixed martial artist, a legit MMA fighter. She's so well-rounded. She's just she lives and breathes fighting. It's so awesome to see a female go in there that has the explosive finishing ability that she has. That's just so polished. And you see her killing Jessica Ai here. That was one of the nastiest knockouts you've ever seen. You don't typically see that from females. You don't even see females finishing fights that often. If anything, you mostly see submissions from them. But Valentina will go out there and she'll decapitate you. Shout out to Amanda Nunes. She also goes in there and she finishes fights too. But those are the two best women fighters on planet Earth. But Valentina is the chick. And, I feel bad for these girls when they get matched up with her. Jennifer Maia, she's getting a chance to make all her dreams come true. Jennifer Maia is a girl that's a very skilled fighter. You saw her pull off the armbar against Joanne Calderwood. That was a fight that I said, if you noticed, man, at the weigh-ins, Maia looked to be in the best shape that I've ever seen her in. So, you can expect her to be, stepping into the octagon this upcoming weekend in even better shape. This is obviously the biggest fight of her career. Jennifer Maia looked good. She looked like she was a little bit more on a diet. Sometimes she comes in a little bit chubby. She looked a little bit more ripped in that fight. And I was impressed with what she went in there and she did. She has good boxing, good jiu-jitsu skills. She's strong in there. But she's slow compared to Shevchenko. She's going to be slow on the feet. Shevchenko is going to be extremely, extremely faster than her on the feet with the boxing, with the kicks. Jennifer Maia is a girl she keeps her fights close at points and times, and she has, like I said, that slow, tough boxing. She's in your face, but Valentina is going to be like a bolt of lightning out there. She's going to be like a bullet, and she's going to probably finish Jennifer Maia. Expect to finish. Not that it's easy to go in there and finish Jennifer Maia, but that's just how high I hold Valentina Shevchenko, how high I hold her in regards to her skills. But as far as her getting finished, she hasn't been finished since 2012, and she's only been finished once in her career. I say that she gets finished. And and Maia is capable on the feet too. Like I said, she brings some Muay Thai skills to the table. But listen, Valentina wins this fight. We need to see the Amanda Nunes rematch. Stop wasting our time with Amanda Nunes versus the daddy long legs tall girl over there. We want to see Valentina versus Amanda Nunes. At least let me know. Do you guys want to see that fight? I want to see that fight. I want to see that rematch. So Valentina all day. That line's ridiculous though, man. What are you gonna do with that? You're gonna throw your house on the table to win $100? So as far as betting, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Just stay away. All right, here we go. We got the main event. Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Alex Perez. Fights taking place in the flyweight division, of course. Figueiredo is becoming one of the most legit champions in the UFC. He's starting to make a name for himself, going in there and finishing Joseph Benavidez 2 times in a row in the fashion that he did. He's 32 years old. I think he's definitely hitting his prime right now. But I won't forget, when he went in there and in my opinion, lost a fight against, what's his name? Jared Brooks. That was back in 2017, the tough wrestler. I thought Jared Brooks won that fight, split decision victory for him. But then after that, you saw him go in there and just start handling business, taking out Joseph Morales, John Moraga, Pantoja, Tim Elliott, Benavidez. Did lose to Jussier Formiga, so keep an eye on that. Formiga was able to use his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills and whatnot to control that fight a little bit. And then now he's taking on Alex Perez. Alex Perez, 24-5. This is a guy that really, really showcased his leg kicks against Jussier Formiga in his last fight. I thought the leg kicks were disgusting, and in a good way. They were beautiful. They were nasty. The calf kicks were coming in. There's not a lot of fighters that can take those. Figueiredo ain't going to be able to take those. If he doesn't figure something out, if he's not checking those or being able to avoid those calf kicks are going to chop anybody down. I was extremely impressed in his performance against Jussier there. Alex Perez, a very tough customer, did lose to Joseph Benavidez. You can't use MMA math. You know how the game goes. So just because he lost to Joseph Benavidez and Figueiredo went in there, steamrolled Jouban twice, doesn't mean nothing there. He bounced back with 2 solid victories against Jordan Espinosa and Formiga, Mark De La Rosa. Here's the thing. I think that Alex Perez is a very skilled fighter, but Figueiredo is he's right now, he's in his prime. And he knows what he's out there to do. This guy is out here to be a legit champion, to start really being the new kingpin of the flyweight division. I expect Figueiredo to go out there and handle business. I'm hoping that Alex Perez can somehow keep this fight close. But I got to go with Figueiredo. I think Figueiredo's nasty out with his submission skills. He's so nasty on the feet. He's strong. He has a perfect physique for the division. And he has a chance to really... To be the next Brazilian marquee Brazilian fighter. You know, we don't have a lot of you know, top-notch Brazilian champions right now, and I think that he could be the guy that really you know, puts Brazil on his back a little bit here. So I think he goes out there. I think he pulls off another victory. I could see him getting a finish in there. I could see him possibly finishing him, finishing Perez if he could hurt him on the feet. Maybe pulls off, hurts him, drops him, subs him, or just finishes him on the feet with the striking. I mean, there's a lot of capabilities there. The line maybe is a little bit high for my liking, around -300, -333. It's a little high. You know, Perez, like I said, you know, he has some striking abilities and he's a solid fighter too. So, got to go with Figueiredo though. And Alex Perez, he's going to have a 2.5 inch reach disadvantage, and he'll be an inch taller. So, like I said, Figueiredo has a really nice frame for the division. And I'm going to go with Figueiredo to win the fight. All right, guys. So that sums up the fight card here. We finish things up. As always, man, I appreciate all you guys. You know, MMA live discussion. It did not take place this last Thursday. It most likely will be taking place this Thursday. You know, stay tuned. My Instagram's MMA Fortune Teller _. I was chatting with Nick the Tooth the other day. He said he ended up being busy, so I'll possibly do that this upcoming Thursday. I do have a big group of fighters that are willing to come on the show as well. Just been taking things slow over here. I'll start getting those videos out to you guys. We'll get MMA live discussion going again on Thursdays. Most likely this Thursday, if not the following Thursday. That's basically how the show will be. It's not going to be consistently every week. You know, you'll see it 4 weeks in a row. We'll have a little break. We'll see it 2 weeks in a row. We'll take a 1 week off. Just going to be, you know, here and there. And of course, I'll always keep you guys updated with what's going on my Instagram and on my Twitter. Make sure you guys go follow me on my Twitter, the MMA Teller. I told you guys I'm cleaning things up and I'm starting to really get on the Twitter game. So now I'm tweeting live for the fights. I'll be tweeting for Dana White's Contender Series, tweeting for the Bellator fights, all that stuff. So get me on Twitter if that's your thing. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Instagram, of course, is my main thing, but Twitter I'm going to really start stepping that up, man. So please, you know, follow me on there. Give me a retweet or whatever. Shout me out so I get the Twitter going. I think I got 1,000 followers on Twitter. Instagram, of course, I'm creeping up on 5,000. Trying to get those things going. And I appreciate all you guys that help me out with that type of stuff. And shout out to my Miami Dolphins. That's 5 games in a row. Tua shows up again. Tua showed to be the better quarterback than Justin Herbert. Keep an eye on my Miami Dolphins. My Miami Dolphins will be in the playoffs. How your football team's doing out there. And yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up the show. I enjoyed speaking with you guys and chatting it up over here. And are you guys listening to me? Chewing your guys' ears off. And I appreciate every single one of you guys. Please hit that like button. And please hit that subscribe button and the bell notification, all that crap. All right, guys. Signing out. Teller.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.